Tonight's four-part episode of the album follows the classic outline of the myth, the acknowledgement of the divine, the resolution to pursue it, the search, and the battle with demons, and the battle for redemption. Tonight's album, John Coltrane, A Love Supreme, from 1964. Got John Coltrane on tenor saxophone, McCoy Tyner on piano, Jimmy Garrison on bass, Elvin Jones on the drums. Kind of an unprecedented episode this week as well. I'll tell you why in just a second. Cue the music. Hey, everybody. Go ahead. Welcome back
to the show. Jinx Pigs can't say a word until I smack you in the head. What's up, kids?
How you doing?
Good.
Good.
Dad, how you doing?
Doing all right. Doing all right.
Looking good with all that Ohio State Buckeye stuff.
There you go. I don't have the Ohio State shirt on, but I'm wearing the scarlet and gray shorts on tonight.
Gray beard and red shirt.
I won't stay. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
That's funny. Well, I mentioned unprecedented because tonight's album for the last two lists has been ranked at number 2. And this week, we are counting down again from 100 to 1 using the Jazzwise magazine's top 100 albums that shook the world. Tonight's episode, the album is ranked at number 10 on the list. So we're in the top 10. Congratulations, guys. We're in the top 10. We've got 10 weeks left of some of the best jazz music that we're going to hear, that we're going to talk about. So I'm super excited to be in the top 10. I'm kind of nervous to be in the top 10 because that means we're getting near the end of this part of our journey. But yeah, unprecedented because it's fallen 8 spots.
Very bizarre. That means there are 8 other albums that beat this one out.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Is that possible? It's Love Supreme.
I know.
Ain't got no Love Supreme at Jazzwise, punks.
I love Supreme pizza.
Yup. Especially from Pizza King.
Yeah.
Because all I want to do is get right.
No.
So there's no doubt that what Matt said, this is John Coltrane, Love Supreme from Impulse. It has got some of the most amazing musicians on it, and he has assembled a great quartet here. It is just amazing to have listened to. So, picks of the week. What did y'all want to hear as far as audio clips this week?
Matt should go first, maybe.
Okay. All right. I'll go first. Again, this is a 4-part album. So I'm picking part number 1, Acknowledgement. If you could start me right around 4:55 or 5 minutes, play the clip and we'll talk about what he's doing there.
Now he starts to repeat. All right.
Yeah.
Tell Matt.
Okay. Well, in the Western music, we have 12 keys: A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. That's 8, and then we have the half steps in between there. And based on what key you're in, based on what notes you get to play. Well, John goes through all 12 of the keys in that section right there playing the chant "A Love Supreme." Da 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 da. A love supreme, a love supreme, a love supreme. And he works his way through all 12 of those keys in that section right there. But what I especially heard during the playing of the clip is just how Elvin Jones is laying down the rhythm. I mean, he is just a consummate professional. So, and then you had something else to say about that clip as well.
Yeah, when he goes through the keys, Matt, I was listening to it originally when we did this a little under a year ago. I got interested in why he's playing through that in the circle of fifths. Of course, for him, it was about a mathematician stuff, and he presented his idea of the circle of fifths. I heard something today, Professor Yusuf Lateef, and he presented these geometric patterns, and I'll have a slide of his drawings up right now. But he says when you put these patterns together, you realize that it's not by mistake that our ears feel the way it is. I want to play through all 12 keys because it takes everybody. It takes all of your body, both physical and spiritual, to get to that point. And so I wanted to represent, McCoy Tyner was talking about the story. He wanted to represent how much it takes to bring this music forward. And so that 12 keys, it was about physical and spiritual. So that hit me even harder this year. You know, we came up as a spiritual family. There's no doubt about it. And we've heard great music, and we understand where it comes from and the lyrics that go with things like Amazing Grace or Old Rugged Cross. So for us, the concepts of a spirituality and a spiritual world are not unthinkable. This is who we are. This is what we do. This is what motivates us in listening to jazz music too. A lot of this was about profound spirituality, which you have to have when you're trying to bare your soul to the world through jazz music. So that hit me about that clip.
Cool. Very good.
All right, who's next?
That's pretty deep. Well, Drew, you're at number 2, track 2, right?
Yes, that's what I said. Track 2.
I'm not going to say it, Matt.
Yeah, please don't.
Track 2, I'm going to start at 2 minutes as soon as I figure out where I'm at here. And you could start, this clip could be started anywhere, at the beginning to the whole way through. As I'm waiting for it to prompt up where I want it to, John wanted so much to have everybody broadcast their thoughts and their feelings. So it's not only about him playing, but it's about everybody in the rhythm section putting forth their own thoughts. They came into this with zero clue of what was about to happen, recorded it one day, and that was it. So this features Love Supreme Part 2. First 5 minutes, it's none other than McCoy Tyner. And I'm going to kill it there. The whole first part of Part 2 is just him letting loose on the piano. It's interesting when you think about the lineup. You've got a bass, you got a drum, you got a piano. And as a rhythm section, you're there to lay it down for your instruments, your non-rhythm instruments. And John just steps away and says, "This is yours. What will you do with it?" And he kind of bows out and lets McCoy just rip it.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
There's no doubt that it's not just about piano there, because Jimmy Garrison and Elvin Jones are just ripping it behind him. But
I was
so
going to say the
subtle.
same thing. I was going to say the same thing. As much as you like to focus on McCoy there, you got to pay attention to Jimmy Garrison and Elvin Jones. Why?
I'm just thinking about something I read earlier today. When Reggie Workman stepped into this quartet later in life, he said, I didn't realize how much energy they put in. Every night we'd perform, I'd go back and sleep until the next night because I was exhausted. And I'm thinking about how flawless this quartet is performing. And at the end of it, they're just laying out the music that they feel. So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm glad we're talking about McCoy. He's no slouch.
No.
I mean, first of all, he was a jazz messenger with Art Blakey. Played with Eric Dolphy. We heard him on which one did we just hear him on? Okay.
So we paused because we were having a brain fart here, and Dad comes up with Clutch. Where were we listening to McCoy Tyner at recently, Dad?
Ascension.
Yeah.
John Coltrane's Ascension.
John Coltrane.
And we have talked about McCoy a lot because of people like Art Farmer, Keith Jarrett. We start looking at how many fabulous pianists are out there, and McCoy always comes up. We did bring him up a little bit when we talked about the amazing Bud Powell. Bud talks a little bit about McCoy in that conversation. So,
yeah, good one. Dad, let's do your clip.
Well, you guys went 1-2, and there's a 2. Thank you.
You guys went 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 3, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 3.
I'm going to skip the third track, which is Pursuit. Are you with me?
Yep, gotcha.
Let's jump to number 4 of the Psalm and play from 540 to roughly 625-ish. If you want, you can pick it up anywhere in this track.
Now, would one of you smart guys on the other end, before I hit play on this, what are the 4 track names?
Acknowledgement, Resolution, Pursuant, and Psalm.
Thank you. And we're going to hear Psalm.
Yeah.
Part 4, 540.
To me, that's it's emotionally stirring for several reasons, not the least of which I found something on the internet even this afternoon, where the guy who was reviewing this track showed the poem that John Coltrane wrote.
Mm.
And according to what this man said, while Coltrane is reading the words of the poem, he's playing music corresponding to the words on the track. And brothers, that just blows me away. That it didn't sound to me like he had a musical score in front of him, only the words to the poem. And from that, is where his voice comes out, and the poem makes much more sense. And there's a couple places where, in the later part, mid to later part of the piece, you can hear "Thank you, Lord," "Thank you, God," da da da, something like that. "Thank you, God." Thank you, Lord, for the gratitude and the peace, the connection that God made with him at this point. So that's a big reason that I chose this. It was just stirring to me. So, yeah,
Those were timpanis that Elvin Jones was playing, right?
yeah, because actually, I listened to this before Lady D came over for my lesson. I'll talk about that later. But she said, "Oh man, listen, can you hear those timpanis?" And they just, wow. That also blends or leads to the feeling that you get about the softness, the connection, the peace, tranquility that this poem brings, that this psalm brings.
Well, it's the reminder to everybody who has struggled through addiction. In 1957, he gets fired from Miles for not controlling his drugs. And it's cost him a lot throughout his years to be addicted. And he said, I need to cut this crap out. So he ran into the upstairs of his house and decided, I'm going to cold turkey it. And for a lot of people who struggle with intoxication and drug addiction, alcohol addiction, to find the resolution in AA or NA, they would say, find your higher power. He had come through church family. He had come through first wife and second wife promoting the Muslim to him. So this whole reality is that all of these spiritual worlds are coming down on him and he can't stay sober. So he says, God, I need some help. And as his drug addiction is being kicked cold turkey, he comes out and says, now I need to write something that says thank you.
So is this his magnum opus?
Yeah.
Is this his best work?
I think from the fact that, yeah, I would say it is. I mean, you got Giant Steps and so many others, but as far as I finally figured out where I needed to be going. This is who I am, and he shared it with the world. To me, yes, it is. And it reminds me, the reason I asked for the names of the 4 tracks, you realize that we've all had our moments running from God. We've all acknowledged that maybe I need something bigger and better in my life. We've all wrestled with what does that look like, and the psalm is the gratitude and the thank you. To me, the timpanis, the kettle drums being played in the background, is that rolling thunder of wow, I'm finally here. I realize where I've been running from or where I've been running to now. So that there's a lot of spirituality in Love Supreme, and I can't ignore that in this conversation. However, the other thing I cannot ignore is, Matt, we've got some information to talk about, and it's taken us this long to get to the slides, so I can't imagine what's coming next.
Hey, that's great. We've had some great discussion so far, and I'm loving it. So, just like I've said for 90 weeks I've said this. Whatever you do it to jazz. You're going to hear it coming up in just a few minutes on our weekend music. We listen to jazz all week long. That's what we do. Again, this week we're talking about John Coltrane and Love Supreme from 1965. I did put a picture of the album cover on the slideshow here. To me, it didn't need to be flashy. It didn't need color. It didn't need. I think it's perfect cover artwork for the album.
Coltrane didn't have much of a voice on things in the past as far as covers and inside. He did on this album. He chose the cover.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Dad, you were going to say something.
No, yes, I was. I'm sorry. He has a look of resolution. He has a look of determination. He has a look of, I beat this thing and I'm moving on. So the look on his face, even the profile. So Oh.
I'd like to know what that blur is in the bottom left-hand corner
Mm-hmm.
and why he chose to leave that in there.
It was a earlier photograph from an earlier album. It was an inside liner photo from something, and he just chose that one to be the cover of it.
Cool.
It
Love it.
seems like such a deep, profound album. You would have more to it, something flashier, something bigger, something more impulse, if you will. But the
I don't think-
simplicity of it speaks volumes. In the case of the album, if I was just flipping through records in 1964, I'd be like, "Oh, Coltrane's got another one." This doesn't look exciting. Then after the fact, you go, "Ooh, misjudged that one.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mixed that one."
I fixed it.
And if you don't know what Bixed means, check out last week's, and I actually have a slide up that talks about what we refer to as Bix. So, anyways, album's over.
All right, cool. Let's move on to the jazz style for the day. Nothing like the album that we're talking about this week, but the style for the day is Gypsy Jazz. Again, I'm going in alphabetical order from the wiki page. Gypsy Jazz is a style of music originally called hot club or hot jazz and was a European interpretation of swing. Of course, we've talked about Django before in episode 90, I think, so 80 weeks ago.
80 weeks ago.
Yeah, Django Reinhardt, best known gypsy jazz musician. You have to go check out that episode if you want to learn a little bit more about Django and hear some of his music.
Because you've got Gypsy Jazz up on screen, I wanted to know about when you said originally called Hot Club. How old is original?
Well,
How when was I'm looking right now? Django.
Django was in the 30s because and what actually he was probably even before it. Well, here I'll tell you.
Prior to that, Gypsy Jazz was what kept moving during WW2. Pretty much kept him alive because he could play.
Yes, yeah,
So
yeah. He was born in 1910, but he didn't start playing until
I thought it was 1928 when he burned his hands up.
he burned his hands. So, yep.
So when you say the style of music originally called hot club, you got to think about Gypsy Jazz being 1920, 1930. So just saying.
Different than hot club music today, right?
And definitely different than hot potato.
Definitely. All right, moving on to the next slide where you can get it. Love Supreme is on all of the major streaming platforms. You're well aware of that, but we would prefer you go out to your local record store and find a brand new copy of Love Supreme. That way, the John Coltrane Foundation gets paid. So buy local.
Repeat that again when you said where you can get it.
Where you can get it, all the major streaming platforms.
I can get it.
Get it. You
Get it. Get a ticket. Go lickety split it.
That's where I thought you were going.
Wow. All right. I put a quote by John at the bottom of that slide. I want to be a force for real good. In other words, I know that there are bad forces that bring suffering to others and misery to the world. But I want to be the opposite force. I want to be the force which is truly for good. We don't have to unpack that whole quote. I know it's deep. I know it's long. He just wants to, he wants to, he was on the dark side and he came over to the light side and he wants to stay on the light side.
And bring that to others. Are you a good influence for the people around you? Or are you being influenced by the bad around you? And Coltrane said, I want to be that impact and influence of good. I want to share the light. So what happened this year in history?
This year in history, 1965, and I know that the album was recorded in 64. It was recorded in December. The album actually came out in January of 1964, so they only had it in the studio for a few weeks before they released it. It came out in 1965. Julie Andrews wins Best Actress for Mary Poppins. She won the Academy Award in 1965 for Mary Poppins.
And one of the best songs to ever listen to that Julie Andrews sang, and John Coltrane just tore it up. Favorite Things.
Yeah.
Just a side note, when I saw Julie Andrews, I thought,
Not for Mary Poppins, though. That was from
not
Sound of
for
Music.
Mary Poppins, Sound of Music,
Right.
yeah.
Yep, for sure. There's a good connection, though. Scotsman Jim Clark wins the Indy 500 and the Formula One in the same year. So unprecedented for Jim Clark to win both in the same year, being a Scotsman. So pretty cool because we're from Indiana. So Indy 500, any little piece of data I get to put about the Indy 500, I'm cool with. Michael Dell from Austin, Texas, and Magnus Ostrom were born in 1965. Michael Dell, of course, from Dell Computers. Magnus Ostrom, of course, from Esbjorn Svensson Trio.
When I first read that, Matt, I was thinking about a different Magnus, the grand champion chess player.
Okay.
And I can't think of his whole name now because I thought it was Ostrom.
Well, and when I mentioned John, this being his magnum opus, I didn't want to confuse it with Magnus Ostrom.
Oh.
So, some other jazz that came out in 1965. Of course, you've got Herbie Hancock's Maiden Voyage. You've got Song for My Father by
Horace Silver.
Horace Silver, thank you. And A Charlie Brown Christmas by Vince Guaraldi. A Charlie Brown Christmas.
You sure it wasn't by Snoopy?
Come on, I had to put it in there, right? I had to put him in there.
Snoopy is cool.
There you go.
Halloween Snoopy.
You're awesome.
I know, right? Also, in 1965, Nat King Cole and Claude Thornhill pass away. So those are just a few facts that happened in 1965. You know, I have a great time looking through the wiki page on history for each year. Somehow the wartime stuff stays like they do a lot of wartime history stuff. 1965, Vietnam War was still going on. You know, so I just picked out the few facts that I found interesting that weren't wartime related.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's move on to the timeline slide. And I tried to put different facts on here. We've talked about Coltrane before, of course, with Ascension, and he may be coming up with one other album. We don't know. But 1926, Coltrane was born. In 1946, he enlisted into the military because he didn't want to get drafted. So we've talked about this before. He was a special guest with the Melody Masters in the United States Navy. He couldn't be part of the band, but he was a special guest for the Melody Masters. So
I wanted to add a note on that because I found it interesting in the fact that he joined the Navy, so he wasn't drafted into the Army. And the day he joined, Hiroshima got bombed.
Yep, August 3rd.
Yeah, is that what it was? August 3rd?
Mm-hmm.
I wrote it down somewhere because I thought August 6th,
August
1945.
6th. Yeah, 6th.
August 6th. And I thought, man, that's interesting. Imagine joining that day. Ooh, was it before or after?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Your Grandpa Rice was boarding a ship to go to Japan when the first bomb dropped. So he did not have to go then over to Japan.
He might have been on the same ship with John Coltrane.
Could have been.
John was joining that day.
Oh, yeah.
Grandpa was already deployed.
Yeah.
And I remember that story. He was on an island packing up. That morning they were going to go fight you're going to drop into Japan. It was a fight to the death because they were not going to lose. So that was 1960. 1946.
46, yep.
What year were you born, old man?
No, that was 1945. And I was born in 46.
Okay.
Because he came home shortly after that.
Cool.
So we almost didn't exist.
Well, yeah, I won't say about your brother or sister who lives in the Philippines. I won't say.
Oh, yeah. Our Filipino brothers and sisters. Yeah. Yeah.
Moving right along.
Moving right along. Also on the timeline slide, from 1955 to 1957, Coltrane worked with Miles and Monk. So it's a dash in between those years, of course. There's a lot of work that happened those 2 years with Miles and Monk.
Yeah.
This album, of course, was released in 1965, and then in 67, we lost Coltrane.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the information slide. Some of the influences, and I actually did get a little lazy with this because I pulled them off the old slide, but Lester Young was an influence, Johnny Hodges, and then, of course, Charlie. It tells a specific story of him sitting in a club as a kid listening to Charlie play and kind of, wanting to emulate Charlie so much that that's when he started really practicing, is by listening to Charlie Parker. Again, I wasn't lazy. Those are just the facts of his influences.
Yeah.
Discography. He's got 56 studio releases. He was a sideman on 23 releases, and he's got 19 singles. So he's got a large body of work. And it's funny because I promised you earlier in this year that I'd try to listen to all 56. I think I still have time to do that if I do one a day. Until the end of the year, I could get all 56 done.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's going to be my goal from tomorrow on, is to get all 56 studio Coltrane CDs listened to.
Studio albums, right? The albums.
Yep. 56. All right. The genre that I've got listed for this album is, of course, is on the free side. It is definitely modal. Hard bop was a stretch for this album, but I can kind of pull it off for this album. So 6 Degrees was very, very easy this week because, of course, Coltrane played with Miles between 55 and 57. So 1 degree of separation. No other discussion needed, right?
Nope.
All right, cool. Few facts about John Coltrane. And again, I did try to pull new facts. He was stationed at Pearl Harbor during his naval service. So I just thought that was cool. He only had a 10-year recording history. So he was, those 56 CDs or albums that he did was only over a 10-year period. And that's a lot of work, to create that much new music in 10 years. Downbeat Hall of Fame in 65. So the Downbeat Magazine Hall of Fame, he won the Pulitzer Prize. This was a special Pulitzer Prize that he won in 2007. But yeah, I just found that fact super interesting, that it was a special Pulitzer Prize given to him. And then he's in the North Carolina Music Hall of Fame, inducted in 2009. So I'm surprised that it took North Carolina that long to induct him into the North Carolina Music Hall of Fame. A few facts about Love Supreme, and then we'll finish our discussion on the album. In 2001, it reached gold record status in the U.S., but in 1972, it reached gold record status in Japan. So it took us, I don't know what's wrong with America. Japan must have it going on with jazz, because for Japan, for it to reach gold in 72, gold record is 1 million. Gold record is only 500,000 copies still. And it's funny because I was watching TikTok this morning, and Branford Marsalis came on, and he was talking about being a jazz musician, and he's like, we don't do it to sell records. A lot of people don't buy jazz records, and that just hits hard when you're talking about Love Supreme, you're talking about Miles Davis. They're doing it for fame, they're doing it for fortune, but they're not selling millions of records overnight. So I guess for it to take to 2001 to reach gold status in the U.S., I don't know. I'm kind of embarrassed by that, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. The reviews were very high, except for this stupid Record Mirror, whoever they are. I've never heard of them before, but they rated the album 3 out of 5 stars. Everyone else was 5 out of 5 stars.
They need to be drawn and quartered.
I think so too. Because maybe their week in music was rough. Maybe car crash, the wife left, the dog died. He was hungover the day he was listening to the album. I don't know, but
And likely he didn't have any bacon that week.
yeah. Oh, bacon tastes good.
he had a herd of cows fly over. Poor guy.
Yeah. So I don't know. I really had never heard of Record Mirror before, but when I saw that, it just made me chuckle. What kind of nincompoop would give Love Supreme a 3 out of 5? Of course, the album is deeply spiritual. You heard us refer to that earlier while we were playing our clips, and the spirituality of the album. There's no question. One of the other critics wrote, "This is probably the most perfectly plotted single piece of jazz ever recorded." So, and that, of course, Tom Hall is a jazz critic. The most perfectly plotted single piece of jazz ever recorded. So, again, it begs my question: why did it drop down to number 10? And again, I'm not criticizing John Newey. It's a great list. We've enjoyed the last 90 weeks. You and I remember from the beginning, we never looked ahead, but we knew what was on the 99 and the 06
Yes.
list. And you knew it was number 2 on both of those lists. And we had kind of expected it was either going to be 1 or 2. And then for us to turn the page and realize that, oh, wow, it's number 10, it kind of shook me up a little bit. But anyways,
I remember early on, Lily wouldn't tell us. She had scrolled ahead, and she was like, "Will you be disappointed?" And I'm like, "Do what? Are you going to be sad?" I'm like, "What are you telling me?" She said, "I can't tell you what's coming, but I now know." I was surprised.
I love that
greatly.
girl. I love that girl. All right, last piece for Love Supreme for me, and then we'll finish the discussion. 2015, it was inducted to the National Recording Registry for Preservation. So this, and again, I don't know why it took to 2015. It should have been 1967.
Mm-hmm.
They inducted it into the Registry for Preservation, in my opinion. So, okay, that does it for the slideshow for me. Thank you so much for letting me do that.
Good job. Thank you. It's always refreshing to see that information.
Yeah, I wish my brain could remember all of the information that I've read. That would be awesome. But anyways, let's go ahead and rate the album right now, and then we'll talk about our rating. What do you say?
Dad, do tell.
Well, I'm a little bit shaken because as I listened to it initially, I scored it. I did not score it high. I listened to it again. I changed my outlook. I listened to it some more. I changed it again. I asked Lady D this afternoon to explain to me the rhythm, the beat, because listening to Coltrane play the sax and the rhythm section in the background, to me, they didn't sync. It did not sync until I asked Delaney, and she started counting as 4/4 count. It made sense to me as she's counting the 4/4 count, and so I changed my score again. However, I did not give it 10. I gave it a solid 9. And where I struggled was the tone of it. Now, Coltrane has such great control of the sax, but that's not, to me, that's not my style. Okay, because he sounds like he's blowing through it, but he's such a perfect. I mean, I'm not criticizing, except I'm just not into that blowing through.
Mm-hmm.
I scored the tone lower, but otherwise a solid 9, and that's where I'm sticking now. What's the group that scored a 3 out of 5?
Yeah, right.
Right.
The Record Mirror.
I just pulled that up too. Record Mirror.
And let me say this as well. I am definitely an unconnoisseur because I do not understand the changes with the 12s and the 5s and I do not understand. If I had a more fuller understanding of that, then likely I would have given it a 10. But I don't understand that, so I'm definitely an unconnoisseur.
Well, I don't really think you have to explain your rating. I think it's a great rating, first of all. Being an unconnoisseur, we're still in. I'm still an unconnoisseur. I don't know everything there is to know about jazz. I hope I never do.
Yeah.
I know what I like and I know what I don't like, and I like this album.
And Matt, I want to touch on that too. I think that the true unconnoisseurs of all of us, my journey took me to learn what some of this is because I'm learning to play the trumpet. Yours was the experience in music school and learning to play instruments like this. So we do have a different angle of appreciation. Dad, your point is so valid though, because you look at this and go, I don't know what Coltrane changes mean or rhythm changes or what. That's not what we were ever about.
But he's a drummer. He doesn't know what changes. He wouldn't know the first thing from A key to G flat key. He doesn't care. He's a drummer. He doesn't need to know about Coltrane changes.
No.
So, all right. So for me, the craftsmanship is there for sure. The craftsmanship. John spent a lot of time crafting this music very, very well. The awareness, I can when I listen to the album, I can picture the studio. I can picture where everyone's at. For me, the creativity. There's no doubt the creativity's there. The spirit, more than one spirit, the Holy Spirit probably came down and touched John a few times and said, "This is what you need to do." The emotion for me, you know, I remember our personal week conversation, you and I talking about it. We didn't have to talk each other into a 10. I gave this album a 10 based on our criteria, listening to it all week. You can't, for me, I couldn't give it anything lower than a 10. I just couldn't. I loved the album so much. I walked around all week. Bum, 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 bum. All week long, that's what I was doing. Bum, 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 bum. And I mean, I don't know. It hit me on a more emotional level this week too. It does kind of tick me off that it's only 39 minutes. It could be longer, but I'm not complaining. So I did make a lot of great notes the week that we did this personal. I wrote, once you hear it, you can't unhear it. I wish this was one of the albums that I could hear for the first time again. Unfortunately, it's never going to happen again. Even if I don't listen to it for the next 5 years, this is not an album that you're going to forget. McCoy Tyner on piano is simply brilliant. Elvin Jones on drums, simply amazing. This album has been discussed probably more than any other jazz album. What else can we say about it?
Yeah.
What can we say that will make a difference? You know, I mean, literally.
And it's not just the album that's been talked about. It's been every one of the musicians that's on this. You know, John put together a great group of guys that played with him for a long time. Jimmy Garrison was the bass player for a long time with him. Elvin Jones. These guys were even prior to John Coltrane being the leader. So they played a long time together. And because they're known for their time with Miles or their time with Coltrane, what can you say that hadn't been said about them?
Right.
Coltrane, the album, everything on it. One of the things that sticks out to me about this, I think coming into it, being that we'd already looked at Coltrane, we know what we're in for both from Blue Train, which is a very bluesy album, to his free jazz, which was Ascension, to kind of this culmination of things. This really, really swinging, really great music to blowing through his horn, wondering what was really going on. Knowing that before we did this, we were at St. James Episcopal on the east side of town, and the priest there was doing a sermon on the gospel according to John Coltrane. And the special guest musician there was Don Braden. So Don is going to perform some of this music and talk about the John Coltrane experience of where the music came from. And then Ellen was going to preach a sermon on it. Well, by the time Don's done explaining what was happening, she said, well, thank you for the sermon, because that was amazing. Don Braden talked about John Coltrane. Then here we are a few months later, we're listening to it. I'm already sold on the album. Mm-hmm. So for me to rate this at a 10, I just couldn't help but fall in love with the diversity in it, the drive for it, but more importantly, going through drug addiction and trying to clean up. Yeah. I know what that struggle feels like. So for Coltrane to go through it and walk away and say, I need to have something to thank you for this. I write that. So for the spirituality alone, it's just banging, but it's less free jazz than Ascension was.
Yeah, for sure.
So
But it is it's still free. I mean, it's still
it's pushing boundaries. It
Yeah.
really is. What I found more interesting, because I'll start the discussion, then we can move on from there, but he practiced 10 to 12 hours a day. The man was committed, and people that he would sit with would often talk about under the table. He was moving through the fingers to play scales. He fell in love with some scales, and he practiced all the modal scales. Ended up designing his own practice because of the geometric movement of the circle. I know circle fifths, all that. I'm going to put up his drawings, though, because he's got his own book and his own practice routine from that. There was a lot of great things about John Coltrane musically that we often overlook. He experimented with 6 different instruments coming up. He would carry his saxophone around with him all the time, because you just never know when you're inspired to play, right? If you're going to practice 12 hours a day, you better have that bad boy with you. So there's a lot to consider. And at 57, my last note of that, he recorded both with Miles and with Monk. 2 of some of the greatest musicians in the world, and there he is back to back in 57 recording with the both of them. It also began his creative transformation in 57 when he started to recognize that I need to go a little bit further than where I have been. So a lot of great things come out of those years with Coltrane.
You know, we've had 90 weeks of music in our ears. Some of it we've absolutely loved. Some of it we didn't care for so much. And not that the journey was wearing on me, but I wrote this in my notes. Not that this journey was wearing on me, but I remember the excitement of starting this journey, how jacked up we were the first 30 or 40 weeks, all the learning and discussion and the text all week long together. This album brought that excitement back for me. You know, Dave Brubeck last week, I was so happy to talk about Dave Brubeck. I was so excited, so jacked up, just because I fell in love with Dave Brubeck. Yeah. The weeks before that, you know, you had Weather Report, Ornette Coleman, Eric Dolphy, Duke, and Pops. Okay, those are great jazz musicians, but they didn't inspire me like Love Supreme, and I fell back in love this week with jazz.
Yep.
So,
and I think last week you called Dave Brubeck a palate cleanser. It takes us back, so it makes perfect sense coming forward to a new music, a new style.
Yeah.
And that reminds me, by the way, if you want to know what the last 10 albums were, we've just released the 10 on 10, which is a quick recap, 10-minute recap of the last 10 albums, which would have been number 20 down to number 11. So check that out on our YouTube channel.
And I like talking about the old stuff, but Dad, why don't you tell us
what's new?
Wow. What a great idea. What's new from the old man? This week, I reviewed an album by Nori. How did I forget Nori? And that's not an acronym for anything. That's just the name of their group. Just so happens the album is called Walking Foot, and it's like a quilted album, and you can see that on the cover of the album. And what's to me is really special about this is Akina Adderley, who happens to be the great niece of the none other than Cannonball Adderley, and she does vocals. And there's trumpet throughout this whole album that just really smooth, melodious, and you guys could especially appreciate how this album flows with the trumpet and the vocals. This album was released August of this year, and that's their 3rd album only, so they're a relatively new group. And interestingly enough, Drew, this group is from your city, and the album was what's the word? They were contracted by the Austin City Music something to formulate this album to play.
The Austin Cultural Arts Center.
Yes. And they were,
which, by the way, is a major supporter of the New School of Music Austin and the Texas Jazz and Blues Camp every year. So
why
thank you.
why can't they support the Unconnoisseur channel with the donation of about $1 million?
Yes.
I'd take.
Come on,
I'd
Austin.
take a cool 500,000.
Come on, Austin, Texas.
Even 250 grand. I mean,
Yeah, 250.
but we'll take it. We'll take it. This is a self-labeled album, which I researched. I thought I didn't see any record label. This is the genre is alternative jazz, soul jazz, and I think there's something as well as some rhythm and blues recognized in the album. So I recommend y'all take some time, listen to this album. What are there, 9 tracks or so?
Yeah, it's long. I think it's 49 minutes.
Yeah.
long.
And let me just give you a rundown of the Dead and Gone is one of the tracks. Tiptoe, the last track on it is really, really smooth, and it's the sound of snow, and that is so smooth and melodious. Go ahead.
Do they know what snow sounds like in Austin, Texas?
No.
Uh,
But I will say this in their defense. Where'd he go? Eric Telford is a trumpet player. He was out at Boston College, so he probably picked
He
up.
probably does.
He probably
Yeah.
picked up a little bit of that.
I'll tell you what.
His
Bring
time
him,
in New York and his time.
bring him to Jeanette. We'll take him out on one of those highways out there when it's 30 below and see how well he can blow across the field.
We're gonna film that and call it the day we met Bix.
Sorry, Dad. Sorry.
That's okay. The last thing I'll say about it is one of the tracks. You can appreciate this old man new music. One of the tracks is Old Man. And
And why is that?
tell me.
Not because you're old.
Yes.
Two of these songs were a tribute and a nod to
Nina
Dylan.
Simone. Who?
Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan.
Old man,
That's right. That's
take
right.
a look at my life.
Yeah.
Don't-
That's right.
Yeah, you don't want me singing.
No, oops.
And the grant that they received from the city of Austin was actually for their work, because of the work with their Nina Simone tribute.
Yeah.
They offered a strings version with their music. Dad, I got super excited reading about this album because I'd listened to it already, and I've recognized her voice. I recognized her. What?
You did? You listened?
To the whole thing multiple times.
Wow. No, I'm not surprised. No, before. You mean before he even?
No. When it came over, I had listened to it. Now, she was with another group prior, some 15 years ago, that I had recognized. I'd recognized her, but hadn't paid any attention to her.
Well, it wasn't until he sent over the facts that I mean, I listened to it, but I wasn't that interested in it. But then when he sent over the facts and I knew it was Great Niece
I
of
was like,
Cannonball, I'm like, I better
now.
sit up attention. Yeah.
Well, and here's what hit me. I put it on the slide for all to see, but Dad, you put in there the great niece of Cannonball Adderley. She is the granddaughter of Nat Adderley, who I love and love to listen to.
Yeah.
Trumpet player of all things. So
Right.
imagine your granddad being a trumpet player and you have to find a trumpet player to be in your band.
Yeah. Ooh.
So I
And-
love this. And
You mentioned quilt, but now that I'm looking at the picture, I think it's an old couch cushion that's got yarn woven into it.
Okay.
I'll put that up on the screen here.
It would not be a traditional quilt that we see around these parts.
True.
Okay.
An Austin quilt may be
Yeah.
a little less finely woven.
Yeah.
I see couch cushion.
Like an Amish quilt or Mennonite quilt. It's not that kind of quilt, but it is a quilt with respect to the way the music is interwoven.
Oh, makes sense.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah.
And I made a mistake earlier. I said Bob Dylan. Old
Yeah.
Man is not a Bob Dylan song. Old Man is Neil Young.
Yeah.
And there are three songs from Neil: Piece of You, Old Man, and Tiptoe. Tiptoe, I don't think was on this album, but it was released as a video after the fact.
I'm not really a huge Neil Young fan.
Is that Neil Young as in Crosby, Stills?
Yep, Nash and Young. Yeah.
Maybe that's why when I talk about my week in music, I'll mention something.
All right. Well, hey, you're warmed up. Let's get to it.
So my week in music. Well, when I saw Neil Young, I thought, what song have I heard him play? And I went to Sweet, Sweet Judy Blue Eyes. And it brought back such memories that's a song that I think I would play over and over again. At least I could play it every week and not get tired of it.
But that's Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young. That's
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
He doesn't sing much with Crosby, Stills, and Nash. He's instrumental, right?
Mhm.
Maybe
Yeah,
that's why
Yeah.
I can stand him in Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
So I also listened to a 7.5 minutes drum solo by Mr. Alvin Jones. And I cannot believe how impeccably he plays, how he keeps the rhythm, keeps the beat. And what I read something about, he wears a fishnet shirt almost all the time and sweats so hard. And you can see him working. It's like that sweat is just pouring out of his head. Like he is working at it. And it's very impressive. And it's hard to emulate something like that. Delaney mentioned to me Red Clay today, and you guys know all about Red Clay.
Mhm.
So I listened to a couple of Freddie's stuff today. This week I was
I'm just so delighted. I'm gonna go listen to Red Clay by Freddie Hubbard.
yeah
I'm just so motivated by that music.
yeah
I'm not hurt by that decision one bit.
Not at all.
no, isn't it good stuff? And Oliver Nelson, I listened to his track. I don't remember what day that was, but I was listening to that. I tried Robert Glasper.
Okay.
I got a couple tracks into one of his albums, and I tried the other album that we had on him, and I was just not there with him. And Roy Hargrove,
Oh,
do you know that name?
just a little.
Yeah. The last thing about my week in music today, I had my drum lesson. I couldn't have it last week because Lady D was recovering from dental work, and I can't do it tomorrow because I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. And so we did it today, and we were at fellowship at the drum kit, and she gave me some really good instructions. And I was working on my money beat, and that's what I got to do all week. I've got to get the money beat down. She said, if you do nothing else, just keep working on the money beat. And then she said, let's try playing the money beat with Let It Be by the Beatles. Let it be, and that's all money beat. So that I'm good to go. Good to go.
So we start calling you Ringo.
Well, hey, come on. I have to let my hair grow differently. Do I have
Ringo.
Let it go. Let it go.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That's funny.
Who else?
That's funny. Well, yeah. Let me go next. You know, it was another stressful week at work for me. I've had a Love Supreme in my ear. I love finishing the album and watching what iTunes is going to play for me next. I got a lot of Miles Davis, got a lot of Wayne Shorter after that, so I'm not complaining one bit. I honestly, I didn't veer off of Coltrane much at all. I mean, I did Blue Train. I did not do Giant Steps. The other one I did was Live at Birdland. forget about it. I did the ballads from 1961, the ballads album with McCoy Tyner, Jimmy Garrison, and Elvin Jones. So it's just been a week of Coltrane. I need the focus. When I listen to Coltrane, I can. It's funny because I'm listening during work, but I can zoom out here and do my project, and then zoom back into the music, and zoom out and zoom in. Not that that's how you should listen to jazz. It's just how I tend to. And so I don't know if I could have made it through this week without Coltrane. I really didn't have much else on. Sputnik came on this morning on our radio channel, and I turned the volume up so loud that it shook the wall here a little bit. I'm not complaining about Maria Schneider. By the way, we've never mentioned our radio channel, so I'm just going to plug it right now. WTUR.org. If you want to listen to jazz all week long, come to WTUR.org. We run our own radio channel, so you can stream it from any streaming device you want to. And I did buy I don't know if you can see it up there, but I did buy the name WTUR. So the Unconnoisseur Radio, WTUR, the Unconnoisseur Radio channel. We've never plugged it before, but we're in the top 10 now, so I don't care. Come listen to WTUR Jazz Radio all day long. Stream it in your browser, stream it on your phone. That's my week. That's all I want to say.
Good. Last night, I got an opportunity to go to Lakeway Big Band Bash. The Republic of Texas Big Band was performing, as they do every month, on the second Monday of every month here, and it's just such a great time. Now, you saw from the photos last night, we were in a different space at the Rough Hollow Activity Center. The dance floor is a little bit smaller. The tables were tightly packed, but it did have an open bay door on either side, so you go out and dance and enjoy it outside under the stars as well. They didn't have their full mic set up, so the band wasn't really microphoned as well. What a great night of music. So I appreciated that. That's why we're recording a night later. And then today I noticed that D'Angelo has passed away. And Dad, you mentioned Roy Hargrove, and it reminded me of the Roy Hargrove experiment and how instrumental D'Angelo was, even with Robert Glasper as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, his music will carry well beyond Erykah Badu as well. But D'Angelo's music will continue to strike a chord in the jazz world as well as the hip hop world. So that was kind of my week.
It's funny that you bring that up because, and I know I'm done with my week in music, but I did listen to our Chuck Mangione tribute episode today. So I did put on Chase the Clouds Away today in tribute to Chuck. It's only been a few months since we lost Chuck, but then when D'Angelo passed away.
Think about going to listen to some Robert Glasper.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, our weeks have wrapped up, and next week we've got
let's turn the page. Turn the page.
Another banging album. When we physically turn the page to the next one, don't look at what's behind it, but look at number 9. I'm going to go ahead and introduce it because Matt is embarrassed to do this because our mother will be listening. But this week we have none other than number 9, Miles Davis. I won't get to the track name yet. It was out on Columbia. And it was recorded over several days in 1969. And the album, Miles Davis, Bitches Brew. There, I said it.
I'm still the only one.
Not ever cussed on the channel.
Never cussed on the channel.
This album, man, well, we've listened to it. You know that. Y'all know that. But what a great album to switch gears from A Love Supreme to Bitches Brew. Miles Davis, I don't think we can undervalue the importance or emphasize the importance of Miles Davis's career, bringing new music to the forefront of music.
Again, Let me just plug one more time. We are using the Jazzwise magazine's top 100 albums that shook the world. The list is from 2022. We've got some exciting things coming up on the channel after we're done with the list that someone else made. We are trying to work a list at some music to cover on our own. After 100 weeks, we're still not geniuses. we're still unconnoisseurs, but you may see a list drop here in the next 8 weeks of what's coming up next from us.
So, as always, if you want to find out what the scores were from 1996, 2002, and then 2022, you can check us out at theunconnoisseur.com on our website. Also, go look at our personal ratings. Those are all up to current date. We've got Dad starting back at number 65 in the countdown to 1. So you've been along for a long ride with us so far. If you've got comments or questions, drop them in the information below. Of course, we try to get to the YouTube comments right away when we see those. Join us. Thanks for joining us on our podcast channels and for tracking Matt on TikTok. If you want to just email us directly and ask for a sticker that Matt's got on that water bottle behind you, email us at theunconnoisseur@gmail.com. I will add in there WTUR.org to go listen to our radio channel.
Yeah.
So please enjoy. And until next week, whatever you do, do it to jazz.
Hasta la vista.
Go for it.
Baby. A love supreme.
Supreme.
A love
Love
supreme.
supreme.